Hello, people. Welcome back to another installment of By Any Means.
By Any Means.
Hey, Bridget. Bridget is always our guest. How do we do, Bridget?
You did good. That was scale of 1 to 10. Scale of 1 to 10, that was a strong 8.
We've been practicing. Last time we said it was 7. Now we're 8.
Yeah,
so
8.
We're good. Look, thanks for joining us again, guys. We got an interesting topic today, right? A topic that's been on the minds of a lot of people. For the past, I guess since quarantine, this whole quarantine thing started. You know what I mean? People been trying to figure out, what they're doing with their finances, trying to make smart financial decisions, especially with this whole, buy black movement and, everything is black and being smart about the moves that you're making. But before I get into the topic too deep, it's kind of not my baby this week. This is Derek's baby. So I'll let him kind of go a little bit deeper into the title. Derek, can you let the people know what we're talking about today?
Yeah, certainly, Kelvin. Thank you. One, I want to start off even before we get to the introductions, but thanking Mr. Edward Williams and Mr. Jeff Granger for sharing with us. They have some great insights today in terms of money management. Now, where this stems from, I first thought about kind of navigating the pandemic, but Kelvin and I had a really good conversation about, hey, from a timeliness perspective, we've kind of shifted away from that. However, it's still going on, but what's always relevant? Money management, right? So, and money management is actually something that's important every day, whether it's pre-COVID, during COVID or post-COVID. So yes, the pandemic is still happening, but people are kind of finding their way. So we wanted to really talk about money management, and we came up with Stuntin and Frontin, but money management indeed. But we oftentimes see, especially within our direct communities too, we see a lot of people, they look like they have it, but they really don't. And that can be detrimental for them and also others, especially our legacies, because sometimes we don't really share those real gems and nuggets that we really need to in terms of money management, where we already know we're behind the 8 ball, behind the curve, at least in America and globally as well, especially from a financial and economic empowerment standpoint. We oftentimes talk about that economic empowerment. We really do believe that that's the way out. So that being said, we kind of wanted to kick in there and get it started. Now, I'll go ahead and start off with Mr. Williams. Could you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Edward Williams. I'm the owner and managing partner for DEW Financial Management Group. It is a wealth management group that got started as a result of a depression recently in 2010. Left Smith Barney and decided to branch out on my own. And that's how DEW Financial Management Group came about. So September, I'll have 10 years anniversary with the firm.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Yeah, congratulations. And Mr. Jeff Green. Jeff Granger.
How you guys doing? My name is Jeff Granger, owner and managing partner of Granger Financial, partner with my wife, Hampton alum. I have been in the insurance and financial services arena for about 12 years now. Started at Wachovia Bank as a licensed specialist. Then I went into State Farm as an insurance agent, opened my own agency, was recruited into corporate to be an executive, and I ran DC, Maryland, Virginia for the last 4 years, and then decided in July of 2019, working for America, enough was enough, and it was time to start building a legacy for my daughters. We left the company and we went and opened Granger Financial, and we've been open for a little over a year now.
Awesome. Thank you. and what I do want to say, Kelvin, real quick, I said Jeff Green. Now, there's a reason why I said Jeff Green, because I don't know if you know everybody, but Mr. Jeff Granger, New Jersey's finest, Hampton University's finest. Are you in the Hall of Fame at Hampton or the MEAC, sir?
I have no idea. That's irrelevant. that's not relevant. We're talking about money and finance today. My man is the basketball behind me, man.
Listen, I think you know, a lot of people are looking to try to figure out a way to drop some 3-pointers into their bank accounts right now. So you know, like, a great intersection between, you know, finances and sports, and you know, if I can try to use a little cheap analogy there, but but listen, I have a question for you, right? So there's a lot of people who are interested. Like I said, you know, quarantine is happening. People are trying to figure out ways to better their lives and, you know, better their financial situation. And you know, I know some people who are putting a lot of money into a lot of these programs out here, these schools that they find on, or you know, I don't want to call them schools, but these you know, how to trade forex and how to, you know, how I made $50,000 in 2 months and whatnot on Instagram and Facebook. I just want to get, you know, I want to make sure that at least our audience knows, you know, kind of what's valid and what's not, because I applaud the effort in trying to better yourself, but you know, you got to kind of be judicious about who you're taking advice from. So, first of all, being a former registered investment advisor myself, could you guys speak about the type of licenses that, you know, you need in order to be qualified to give someone financial advice, and then just kind of what your thoughts and opinions are on a lot of those, you know, those instant traders and financial quasi-financial advisors that exist all over the internet right now, and that are offering courses for, you know, $35 to teach you how to make $20,000 in 2 months.
Yeah, well, I'll chime in. Anyone can go out and invest money, but if you are doing it as a registered representative, you must be licensed. Okay, there's a lot of people out there that try to get people to invest in things that they are not legally licensed to do. So you know, individuals need to be careful when they're dealing with people. Find out about the person. They can find out on the Security Exchange Commission if you're dealing with investments in stocks and bonds, mutual funds and ETs and all the others. They can go to the securityexchangecommission.gov and find out about a person. They can go to brokercheck.org and find out about a person that's licensed to sell or market or invest in the stock market. And then of course you can always go to your the state insurance site, and find out the background of a person that's selling insurance that's licensed to sell all kinds of insurance. So there's a lot of information about individuals out there that, you know, their credit record, if they've been fined by the governing organization, if they've had to pay a fine, if they've had to, you know, leave the industry for a while. And so, you know, you can find out about a person. I like to say the person's reputation precedes them. So just go out and check. If you got if there's something in your stomach or your heart that's saying, hey, you know, maybe this isn't quite right, just go out onto some of those websites and check them out.
I think that's a good start. I like to take the more of the direct approach, right? What licenses do you hold, and what qualifies you to be able to give me advice, to be able to take me on as a client, or me to hire you as my advisor? Right off the bat, you have that power as the consumer. I think so many times in the African American community, we don't know enough about finance. So when we go into these meetings, we give the people that's sitting on the other end of the table more of a stature than they probably should have, or more of I don't want to say respect, because we should respect everyone, but we look at them and hold them in higher esteem until we know enough about them. And I'm sure Mr. Edward, like he said, he's been at Smith Barney, right? Like that tells you, hey, he worked for a very, very good firm. Smith Barney's not hiring the same people that Primerica's hiring, right? So there's a difference there. There's a track record. You can see where this person has been. And then the broker check, the SEC websites. They'll tell you more in depth on what licenses they hold and if they had anything outstanding against other I would say purchases and clients that they've held where they've been had a reprimand or something of that nature. So, and also, Kelvin, to answer your question around these get rich schemes, these $35 and the $50,000. I mean, we all know. You know before you go in. It's just like these stinking flowers. Put $1,400 in and bring 2 people behind you, and then somebody's gonna get with the bag, right? So you have to take a diligent approach, and it's no different than getting up and going to work every day. Is working on your finances. You have to be diligent. You have to be willing to take your time, do the research, have a plan, and you don't just wake up by osmosis and become rich.
Right. Absolutely.
It doesn't happen. I mean, and if it does, it's 1 in 10 million.
Yeah. The lotto.
Right. Or maybe higher million because
I mean, I'm making that up, but Mr. Edward is spot on with what he said.
Yeah, right. You know, there's people that get rich quick by winning a lottery, okay? But not you look at the record of lottery winners, they don't keep as much as you think they keep, and they don't keep it long either.
Right.
So having a good financial advisor to walk you through the process, you know, could help you keep your get rich lottery winnings. But most of us, most average American, are not going to be lottery winners.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can get rich, whatever you define as rich. You can do so by, as Brother Jeff has said, you know, diligent practice of financial principles.
Yeah.
Okay?
You know, one of the things that I try to tell people is, you know, if they're telling you in their promo video that it's not easy, it takes a lot of time to learn, and, you know, you're really going to have to work hard at it. How is it, and they're doing it, and how is it that they have the time to make a course for you?
Yeah.
Right. So that lets you know right there that their revenue model is shifting from what they did to now teaching other people. So it's not like it's rarely the scenario where they're, you know, actually doing it and teaching you at the same time at an effective level. You know what I mean?
Kelvin, I shoot that dead in the water and don't waste my time on it. If that customer or client is really consumed with Forex and get rich quick, I'm okay. And I'm sure Mr. Edwards been in the business long enough to say, I fired clients and said, hey, this is just not the right opportunity for the both of us. Mm-hmm. If this is the opportunities that you want to pursue, I can't sleep at night knowing that I'm allowing you to operate in that capacity, and I'm your advisor, right? So I tell people right off the bat, and this goes back to the first meeting, it goes back to the initial conversations about, you know, how do you talk to a client or an advisor? I ask them what their principles are, what their goals are, and I would hope that they ask me the same. Mm-hmm. So each advisor has different principles, has different revenue models, has different goals. I don't base mine off of revenue for me. One, because in our industry, we really can't anymore. We have the fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we're operating in the best interest of the client. Because guess what? Now that the Department of Labor and Elizabeth Warren passed that act a couple years ago, we can be sued for your financial losses and for anything. So that has a lot of advisors scared to death of some of the decisions that we're going to make with clients. So I think it's very important to make sure that myself, along with my client, share the same vision for them. And each client is different. But the principles can be the same. Yeah. Goals may be different, but the principles and how we get there may be different for each client. The principles will be the same, but how we get there for each client may change. And I think that'll kill all that Forex marketplace, all that. Let's flip 500 into 5,000 real quick. If that's what you're into, we can't work together. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I tell people that I don't want your gambling money. I want your serious money. You know, if you want to work with me, you have to be serious. This is the serious money that's money that will be used, believe it or not, when you retire for another 20, 30 years. So get rich quick things, I don't even entertain it. So
yeah.
Now there's a couple different schools of thought though, right? So not necessarily schools of thought in terms of how you should manage your money, but there's a big push right now to invest in things in products that you believe in, right? There's a lot of apps out here like Robinhood where you can purchase fractions of shares and things like that. And I hear a lot of people saying, if you like McDonald's, then buy some shares in McDonald's. If you like, Popeyes, buy some shares of Popeyes. If you like going to Macy's, buy some shares there. How does that?
Nike.
Yeah, Nike too, right? Like how does that play into your financial plan when you're dealing with your clients? Is that something that you recommend as kind of like, yeah, as long as you've taken care of your serious money, as you put it, Mr. Williams, then what you do with your other disposable income is up to you? Or is it, I'd strongly advise you not to put so much, money into individual stocks, considering you're not a day trader?
yeah, when I work with people, I do a holistic financial snapshot of where they are right now in their particular financial picture, and from there I can tell where there's holes in their pictures, where they've made some mistakes, where they need to go, and we'll talk about that, and talk about their goals, their dreams, and we will make recommendations on how they can get to that goal or get to where they need to be. But basically, it's okay for someone to buy for. I may offer up a purchase on a stock that they like. That's a good company. McDonald's is a good company, as an example, is a good company. But if they come to me and talk about penny stocks, I just have to I'd have to let them know that the type of business we're in. Is a penny stock going to get you to your goal any closer? And so we take calculated risk, okay, in investing. All right, there's some reason behind the risk that we are going to take. But if the person is constantly coming to and asking about something they heard from Uncle Joe or they heard something over the TV or something, then I just have to bring it back. Does it meet our plan? Is it in our goal and it's in our objective? Is it in our plan? If it's not, then we don't need to go there. All right. So let's stick with the plan. We made the plan to reach your goals, so let's not vary from the plan. Let's continue working with the plan so that calculated risk of getting where you need to go will most likely happen.
And just to chime in and piggyback kind of where Mr. Edward was talking is, I think the beginning, like there's a beginning, middle, and end in all of these conversations, right? Like when someone comes to me and talks to me about Robinhood, I'm saying, what are you doing on Robinhood, right? Because Robinhood is for the person that wants to get started. If you're sitting with me or Mr. Edward as an advisor, then there's probably not a need for Robinhood at that particular moment, right? And what he said was very, like, it goes over a lot of people's head. He said we take a holistic approach, right? What does that mean? That holistic approach means, Kelvin, I'm going to sit down with you and I'm going to ask you not one question, not two questions, not 10 questions. we're going to have a conversation probably a little bit longer than this podcast, and we're going to figure out who you are as an individual, what your behaviors are with money, and what he said is there are any holes in your plan, and then what your goals are. So if we identify those things, then we can identify what track you need to be on. Yes, we want our customers to come or our clients to come and ask us questions about things that Uncle Joe may have told them, or things that they've seen or heard on television. Those things are great. They're good conversation starters because it's an opportunity for us to connect with you again. It keeps us in business because we get the opportunity to show you, why we do what we do, and how hard we study to protect what we do and perfect our craft. So I think that holistic approach is huge. A lot of the people that you're talking about and that we deal with on a regular basis, our friend base, is A, riddled with debt, right? B, probably underwater on their house, and C, has 2 cars that they can't afford. And then they come to you like, yo, I just got my tax refund. Can we invest $4,000? No, we can't. Sorry. Let's go back and let's figure out how we're going to pay this debt off, and then you can come back to me in 18 months. Cool. If you're not serious about that, then you can't be serious about what Mr. Edward and myself are talking about. Those are hard conversations for our community at times, because people then look at us as we're being better than, or we're not willing to help and share. And it's not that. Discipline is real when it comes to finance.
I akin it to going to the doctor. Like if you go to the doctor and you ask them to diagnose your issue and they give you you're going to tell them no, but I don't want to do that treatment. Can I get the one I just saw on the TV commercial? No, you're going to take your doctor's word for it. You know what I mean? So, debt elimination is really a big part of, your financial plan, and really the first step that you should be taking. But a lot of people don't see it that way. Kind of want to put the cart before the horse, so to speak. But
just to pay off their debt. That's what people are trying to do. They want to make investments that they think will pop, and then try and pay off their debt with that. And it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this, Bridget. Let me ask you this. What are just some of the things that you can think of that will come across someone's mind? I mean, as like a working mother, you know what I mean, a professional out here, what are some of the things that come across your mind when it comes to or questions that you have in terms of investing and kind of financial planning in your future or things like that?
This is something that I think for me, specifically during the pandemic, specifically post George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and everything that's been happening in the Black community, for me, it's something that I feel that I want to be a lot more aggressive with and a lot more aggressive in, whether that be debt elimination, trying to figure out, learning more about investments, where do I stand on my risk level, right? I think it brought me to a space of being, I've always been fairly serious about my finances, but I've become way more serious about my finances just in this particular season. Because I think one of the things is that I no longer want to accept risk or accept what people are just giving me, right? I'm in a space where I want to begin to take leadership and control, over that particular area of my life, because I know that allows for freedom to be able to do other things. I always talk about, to me, being able to get a hold of that economic piece, to me, is what really creates freedom, right? So that's been the connection I think that I've made. One of the things that I will say, and I said it before we got on today, what I want to say is that I commend everyone at all levels who is in a space of just wanting to do more with their finances, who is wanting to invest or wanting to save or especially, like I said, the pandemic has hit people mentally, emotionally, and physically, spiritually, in a way that I think a lot of things haven't, coupled with a really crappy political situation, coupled with, a really crappy, civil, social, like all the things that are happening in the world. So now, from a loving on you perspective, I'm gonna love on you for a second and say, great for trying to do, something. I think one of the questions that I have, right, knowing that people are more open, because I think that's opportunity, right? Everyone doesn't have a financial advisor, Everyone necessarily doesn't have access, right? We're talking about to our financial advisor. However, there are a lot of free services that are out there, I think, for people to be able to work with. But like the question is, and the question I think I have is like, is there money to be made right now? So if there's money to be made, or if there's ways to be able to look at money differently during this time, where do we start? What should we be doing? How should we be doing that? So if we want to be aggressive, in the heart of potentially the heart of what we want to do is there, but maybe all the information isn't there. Where do we start in that space? I know I said a lot, but I just think from my perspective, I'm proud that people are more interested than they have been. We just want to get in the right space.
So, Mr. Edward, I'll jump on
okay,
that.
Go ahead.
I think to unpack all of what you said, and it's great. People want to get in and do the right things, but one thing, and hopefully Mr. Edward agrees with this when I say it, the market is always going to be the market. It's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go sideways. It does not. Yes, it matters when you get in at times, and yes, it matters when you get out at times. But overall, the biggest thing that you said is that people are hungry for information. So step one is understanding and trying to gather the information and looking and searching for resources, for good quality resources, versus just taking your money and throwing it willy-nilly. Okay. The second thing is that money is so cheap right now, meaning interest rates are at all-time lows. And I think this is just my philosophy. I think they're going to be that way for a very long time, just because of all of the debt we're taking on and all of the deleveraging that's happening in our freaking society. Like, it's unheard of. It's unreal. We haven't seen it like this before. So to not get too deep into the weeds, to answer your question is, one, information, gather that information. Two, find resources that meet your energy, match your level of thought, and then are on the same track with you from a goal perspective. And then you can really start to get into the market. I tell people all the time, there's an opportunity cost for waiting, but there's also a risk or a cost for getting in too soon when you're not ready. So, my piece, Mr. Edward, I'm sorry.
Ditto. I think the same thing that you did before coronavirus and during coronavirus, you need to do. You need to practice the same skill sets in coronavirus period that you practiced before coronavirus. All right. I say that to say this. You need to have set aside some emergency money, right? You needed that before the coronavirus came about. And for a lot of people, they damn sure need it in coronavirus, right? More so. And so if they didn't practice that before coronavirus, then they don't have it in coronavirus to go to. There's things like insurance. A lot of people are passing away in the hospital and don't have their finances or their estate in order. Some people are passing away and they can't talk to their relatives, they can't see their relatives, the relatives can't see them, and before you know it, they're gone. And you can't ask them, well, hey, mom, dad, where did you keep that safe deposit box? Didn't you tell me at one time you had an insurance policy? Or so forth, okay? So you need to practice those things before coronavirus. You need to practice them in this period and even after this period. The estate planning, the emergency to-do list, all right? Especially if you're married, you got a wife or a spouse, a husband, and something happens, who are you going to go to?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, you can go to your financial advisor if you've been using one all this time before the virus. You can have your spouse or your husband go to the financial advisor. Okay, that's where we come in, and we could be a great assist to people that have death in their families. All right? children? What happens to the kids? What happens if I've heard of cases where both couples end up passing away in coronavirus hospital, maybe not the same day, but close to each other. Now what happens to the kids? Right? If you haven't made preparation for who's going to be responsible for your children, then that's going to lead to some probably somebody taking care of them that you didn't want to. Right? So those same principles that you need to practice before coronavirus, same principle you need to practice in coronavirus and even after coronavirus. Okay, the principles don't change because of an incident in our health system or in our in the markets. Right, we need to work and plan and review and correct and modify and monitor all during these years. Okay.
For sure. Listen, Eric, yeah, definitely some great nuggets in there. I think you just made a lot of people think, right? Because it's a serious question, right? This coronavirus is a real thing out here. 170,000 people have already lost their lives to it in America, right? And some of them were very young, right? Younger than us. I mean, in our age range, 33-ish. And somebody I saw the other day. So, I think just that question alone, who's going to take care of your kids if something happens to you, if you pass away, due to coronavirus, is your family going to be taken care of, even at this young age, right? Having that plan in place could, mean the difference, in somebody's life, in your children's lives at that point. So I think you guys have made some excellent points thus far. Derek, I want to get your opinion, kind of what considerations as somebody who I know has, taken an active role in planning your financial future. What considerations have you put in place? What things have you put in place to kind of ensure, your family's financial well-being, or if there's work that you still have to do, or what should people in your scenario, in your, same category be thinking about, when they go into having these financial planning discussions?
Yeah, thanks, Kelvin. That's actually a really good question. And I'm long-winded just like you, so this might take me a little bit. But
yeah, 30 minutes.
I'll try to be concise. But look, that's a really good question. And I want to start it off by kind of twisting it, because we know that, especially in the Black community, we're behind. And in terms of financial literacy, knowing finances, not being afraid of money, understanding what your options are, what your resources are to even get information gather, as Jeff alluded to. And then both Jeff and Mr. Williams mentioned financial principles. It really strikes me. It really hurts me to my core, honestly, because we're already behind, especially as our community. And then it's not, as we talked about, Kelvin, it's about economics. It's not all these other isms, right? Like you got the working class. So that's not just, the Black diaspora, right? Or African diaspora or Black community. That's a lot of different people in America, especially. So when we talk domestically, it's funny because next we'll talk about, or soon we'll talk about, education too. And I know a question has been on the table in terms of curriculum, financial literacy in schools. But there's a reason, obviously, why there's not there. And we won't go down that path right now. But it really hurts me to know that many people in our community are unaware of the resources and the information that they can get, even within their phones today, right in their own fingertips, versus having, like me back in the day, I had to go ride my bike to a library when I was in high school to get internet access, right, to do some work. But people can still do that today. The library still exists. We have internet at our homes, hopefully, and have it on our fingertips and our phones. Information is out there. We're in the information age, but it hurts me to my core to know that people either want to know but don't know where to go, But that's why we have good gentlemen like Jeff and brother Williams right here today too, to kind of introduce themselves and also what options are available. But then, you know, people really just have questions, or they're just on the other side. Well, man, I don't care. You know, it's this I don't care mentality, and that kind of has permeated within our community, and we really need to break those generational curses and those chains and get beyond that, because I really want us to uplift through economic empowerment. And I think that's why we're here talking about money management today. So to me, I came from a impoverished, low income background, right? But we didn't know it. I didn't, Kelvin, you mentioned this. I didn't know it at the time when I was a youth. You know, it didn't matter. We all loved each other. We were happy. And that's funny too, because, you know, you can't tell me money's everything. Because I know when I didn't have money, we still had joy, love, God, and happiness, right? So it's all in your mindset. But that being said, when I was graduating from Hampton, I had a work study, and my work study boss and the Office of Development gave me a book, The Automatic Millionaire. And that book talked about, you know, your auto accounts, scheduling your money through ACH that you don't want to use right now, right? To live below your means, to schedule that so it can be set aside for retirement. They also talked about the latte factor. The latte factor doesn't have to be just about lattes. It could be cigarettes, could be Starbucks, it could be, you know, knickknacks that you get on a daily basis. If you actually look at your budget, your daily, your weekly, your monthly budget, you'll see how much money you're spending on different type of vices, right? So that book was a gem. I came to the DMV area, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, and started riding the metro, and I was reading that book. And it was beneficial because I did come out blessed in the sense that I had an opportunity to work for corporate America, and they did have a 401k option, so a retirement plan. So that book also told me about, hey, how much should I invest in that, and make sure, you know, it said, and try to invest 10%, right? However, also make sure you at least invest the amount that your company will match, because that means that's your money plus their money, right? Because you want your money to make more money. If somebody else is going to give you money, you better use that money too, right? But they also said a nugget in there too. You need to look at your budget, because you want to invest what you can afford. You don't want to you want to be investment poor, just like house poor, car poor, right? So that book, The Automatic Millionaire, was really vital for me starting off my young adulthood and my professional career. So there's a lot of different options that are out there. I'll leave it really to the professionals to talk about it, but those are some of the things that I've found out through my matriculation as a young adult, with doing my own research, like Jeff mentioned, and then also working with financial advisors like Mr. Williams.
So, question for you guys: what kind of questions should people be asking you? Right, I'm pretty sure when people come and sit down in front of you and they say, "Okay, I'm ready to start investing," because you're financial advisors and that's what you do. You put my money in the market and you make it grow, right? So, you know, what questions do you get asked, and what questions should people be asking you when they sit in front of you? And then just kind of who your ideal customer is, and how do they get started? I know it's kind of a loaded question, but if you know, maybe Jeff, if you want to go ahead and speak to that.
So I think it's not really a loaded question. I think it's a great question, because it's oftentimes that we don't get to say that. Like, we may talk amongst ourselves as financial professionals, like, man, you believe this person asked? but I think the kind of questions that people should be asking are, you know, what are your principles as it relates to this process? You know, what does this process look like? How much do I need to have of investable assets in order to work with you? Those types of questions. Whereas people come in, the first thing they want to ask is, how much does it cost? You know, how much are you gonna make me? I don't know. I brought you all my money. Can you tell me how much of a rate of return I'm gonna get next year? No. We can guesstimate and make very calculated risk that we figure will turn back something in this range. But there's none of what we do is set in stone. So I think asking those questions are important, and making sure that you connect with the person that you're working with. Obviously, Derek and Mr. Williams work together. They connect, right? They're new, right? So they have that common core connection right off the bat. So that's the commonality, right? They may like some of the same sports teams or not, or it may be they like the same sports. Who knows? They may be from the same area. Those things are commonalities that help bind you to that financial advisor versus, oh, I'm working with you because. So those are the things that I think. Mr. Williams, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. So I think no question is off the table. I mean, you know, the potential prospect or even a client in my book can ask any question. Now, there might be some questions that may be personal to me or that they personally affect my, my religion or dealing with my family, that kind of thing. Some of those kind of questions I may not answer. But if it's around finance, then I don't think any question is off the table. Okay. You should be asking the most important questions are things like, the process. If I give you so much money, or if I give you this amount of money, what can you do with it? Okay. How do you operate, Mr. William? How do you start with me? Okay. And how you get paid. All right. How you get paid is probably one of the most important questions, because you want to know what the bill is going to be, that you're going to have to maybe come out of your pocket or maybe come out of your investments. What is it going to cost me? And that advisor should be able to tell you, in plain, simple words, what it's going to cost. And that's another thing I just mentioned, plain English, simple talk is important. Jeff and I can talk the lingo to each other, but I feel it's important for me to talk to the level in which the person in front of me is at, right? So, I wouldn't carry on a conversation with the person in front of me, the client or the prospect, the same way I would carry on with Jeff, because we have educational background and lingos and acronyms that we could use for ourselves and we understand it, but the client or the prospect wouldn't understand it. So I have to, move my conversation down to meet their level, whether they, so that they can really get an understanding of what we are going to be doing for them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, the question of what questions should they ask? Ask them all. If the person is don't want to answer the question, as long as it's dealing with the finance, the money, then they may be trying to hide something. Okay. At least in my opinion, I'm open with people that come to my office, or I go to their place or wherever over the phone. I'm open. Okay. So I don't mind the questions. I think an educated client is a good client.
Absolutely.
Educate that client so that we can ward off those evil doers out there that may come up to them and try to convince them to do something that, when they would come to me, that wouldn't be the thing that we would want to do. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I always, as a former, well, not former, as a sales professional, I have that saying, keep things, stupid, simple, stupid, dumb.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, there we go. I really believe in that, because it's like, the smarter you try to sound to your customer, instead of making them truly understand what they're getting themselves into, the more like a criminal you seem. You almost seem like a used car salesman. You know what I mean? you're talking fast, using a bunch of acronyms and whatnot, and you know that the person in front of you can't understand it, but you just want them to take your word for it because you're trying to do something shady. So I always encourage anybody that I speak to when they're doing anything. I don't care if they're buying a car or a house or going to get some service done on the car. Just ask questions, ask as many questions as you need in order to fully understand what you're getting yourself into. And if they really are a good person and they have good customer service and they're trying to do right by you, then they'll take the time to answer those questions for you. And I'm, pretty sure it's the exact same thing for you guys. Because you all are obviously stand-up individuals if you're on this show. So
well, I appreciate that. I think
we appreciate that comment.
Yeah, we definitely do. But I think one of the biggest things as a financial professional is that customers don't come to you to buy product. They come and the first sale that you make is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, and I know I don't even know Mr. Edward, but I know just hearing him speak that the first sale that he makes is making the customer feel comfortable by his language, taking his level of conversation. Not the conversation goes from here to here. It's just how he explains it is in a different tone. So I think for both of us, the biggest sale is ourselves at first, because no matter how many times we explain some things to some people, it's just not in their realm of thinking. Now, for example, my wife, if I explain numbers to her 99% of the time, she's no dumb woman. She's got a master's degree but that's just not her realm. Now, if you talk to her about something with sociology and the numbers around that and how many Black people are impoverished, like, she will read you the riot act. So in most cases, if the customer or the client trusts you and understands that you have their best interest at heart, they're buying you. And that for us is a big deal. And we have a heavy burden to bear as it relates to that. After we make that first sale, we have to do our part with explaining to clients that there's going to be some wins, but there's also going to be losses. The thing that I want you to be most comfortable with is the fact that when we have losses, we still know what the heck we're doing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay? And we've planned for those losses. I'll give you a prime example. I have a couple clients that are NBA, NFL, and some in Hollywood, right? But one of my NFL guys is a brand new guy to money. He's basically, like Mr. Edward talked about in the beginning, hit the lottery. Not to mention he's a family member. Played for an NFL team. And when he first got in, he's been in the league 4 years. I've not invested one dime of his money. Not one dime. He has more than 58% of his contract value after taxes is saved in cash. Okay.
Wow.
And one of the reasons for this is because I wanted him to understand the discipline of what it looked like to have that money, to be able to see it, to not touch it, and live off of a budget. Okay. The other part of that is, guess what just happened? COVID. We still don't know if they're going to play NFL. So let's just say I was an advisor that was after making money for myself, and I invested all of his assets, most of his assets. He would probably have 100 to 150,000 liquid. And for most guys, that's pretty good. But NFL guys, they can't live a whole year off of that. So when you think about that, you have to be with the person that's going to shoot you straight. And oftentimes, they may have to have some delayed gratification and work for free. And Mr. Edward will tell you, for some clients, you work for free for 2, 3, 4 years. But people don't see that, and they don't understand that side of the business. They just may see the nice house we've worked our butt off to live in, or the nice car that we worked our butt off to drive, and they see that side of it, but they don't see the sacrifice that we put in sometimes as well. So from the other side of the business, and back to you know, Bridget, what we talked about in the beginning was that trust factor, that wanting the information. Well, we're going to give it to you, but we're also going to make sure that throughout the time of our conversation, that everything that could go wrong, we plan for. I didn't know COVID was going to happen. I didn't even know what the heck a COVID was. But we planned for that from a financial perspective to get him to his second contract. Because most guys in the NFL never make it to your second contract.
Right. Absolutely.
So as we've got to do a good job at that space. And I know Mr. Edward probably feels the same way with his clients as well.
Yes. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you hit on some good points about, especially when you mentioned that you know, as a financial professional, the first sale you make is yourself. Look, we talk about, you know, Derek says all the time, you know, humans are relational, right? So, you know, at the end of the day, your financial advisor, if you get a good one, like, you should be expecting to spend, you know, years and years in relations with that person. So, you know, you really gotta, you know, like that person and find some commonalities, or really trust that person, build up that trust, that foundation with that person, because, you know, if you choose right, that should be a relationship that lasts for quite some time, because they'll know your situation. They'll know, you know, how your life is changing, and be able to account for those things and plan for those things ahead of time. So, look, I want to respect your time, right? It's been an amazing conversation. I don't really want it to end, but I do kind of want to go around and get some final thoughts in terms of, you know, what we should be, you know, what should people be doing with their money right now? What's kind of that first step that they need to take, and you know, and not just kind of hopping out there and just doing whatever. The first thing that goes up, you know, scrolls up your Instagram feed, and, you know, feeding into a lot of these things, because there's definitely some steps that you should be taking before that. So, you know, for me personally, I feel like, you know, a lot of people that are in similar situations to me, you know, I'm a little bit different. I'm trying to get a whole company off the ground, you know. So for me, it's making sure that my cash flow is number one in order, right? So it goes back to the whole debt elimination and managing my cash flow, so that if anything happens to me, my fiance and my kids don't have anything to worry about. And I think, you know, maybe concurrently, maybe not at the same time, you know, I have an insurance policy just in case, you know, this whole COVID thing kind of takes over, you know, God willing, I'm be here for a while, but just in case, you know, you just got to make sure that, you know, my family's taken care of. So for me, that's kind of my first steps that I've been kind of enacting. But, you know, Derek, what are some of the things that you would consider kind of the first steps to somebody? What advice would you give somebody who is stepping out right now, becoming impatient? Like, okay, I got to do something at this point. Like, what should I do? What would you tell somebody in your situation?
Well, I think I would start with, and this is to piggyback off some of the words you've used, take a moment, take a step back, relax. Don't, you know, and I think Jeff spoke to this earlier, and you did too, Kelvin, like, just don't just jump in before you're ready. Like, or just don't jump in without being informed, because it behooves us to make informed decisions along any front in our lives, right? So take a step back, breathe, do what you got to do to compose yourself, do your due diligence, do some research in terms of understanding those financial principles that were spoken to today. Because unfortunately, you know, sometimes our elders weren't aware or cognizant of those financial principles. They may have been at some degree, but maybe not to the degree that, you know, could have really benefited them and been passed down generationally. So that being said, you know, do your due diligence, do your research, understand those financial principles, understand what a budget is, understand what a budget is for you, understand yourself, right? And understand your future, your current short-term and long-term goals, where you want to be, where you are now, where you want to be. and kind of align those goals with what opportunities and resources that exist out there. Maybe a financial advisor isn't for you right now because you're asset low, right? You may be your debt to income ratio may be off kiltered. Your debt is too high and you need to focus on debt elimination versus, oh, I need to have this cash flow. Well, you create cash flow and increase cash flow by debt elimination. One person told me a long time ago, the way to get a bonus instead of trying to get that bonus from your job on top of your salary is to eliminate any debt you have. So that car, that house or rent option. And Kelvin, we got a plan for that. It's coming. Just know yourself, know your expenses, know your budget, plan for the short term, plan for the long term. And, whether you call it the 3 P's, 6 P's, 12 P's, you want to plan, for that future. Again, know yourself, do your research, and kind of plan for your future.
Awesome. Bridget, what do you think? Someone in a similar situation to you, what are the kind of first steps you think that they should take?
Yeah, so and I told everyone I was probably gonna take some notes, and it was in a joking way, but then like kind of serious. So I actually have taken some notes. And I think one of the things I like most about what we've been talking about, or at least one of my takeaways, is around some of the questions that you should be asking when beginning to get in relationship with different folks around your, or someone, either a financial advisor or somebody you're talking to about their finances. So thank you guys for that information. I think that for me, right, I think thinking about COVID specifically, it gave me the opportunity. I'm by all intents and purposes a single mom. I have co-parenting help, but not financial help, right? For the most part, the finances that I have that come into my home are the finances that I have coming into my home. And so from that standpoint, one of the things during this time that I was able to do was to kind of look at saving, because my overhead for certain things was going down because I'm doing less. Then my income, or none of my income went up, but the things I'm spending money on as many things, so it allowed me to save more aggressively to knock out some of that debt and some of those other things. So I've been trying to work on strategy. How can I take what's happening right now and basically turn lemons into lemonade? And I think that's one thing that women do well. We're always trying to figure out how to, turn lemons into lemonade, or something into a full course meal. Like that's what we do. We stretch things. We make them work. And so I think that's an approach to take. I think another approach to take, especially during this time, or what talents do you have that maybe you're not maximizing, right, at this time? So for me, it's not necessarily that I started a brand new business, but I saw that there were people around me who weren't doing a lot and didn't have a lot to do. And when they saw things on my Instagram story, they were asking me, well, why were you on this boat? How'd you get on the boat? What were you doing? And I began to be able to make extra money curating a boat experience by decorating boats and things like that, like a living room for friends, right? So now I'm making a little bit of extra money doing something totally tied around the pandemic at this point, right? Maybe it won't last forever. I don't know. But it helps me to make a little bit of extra money to also throw toward, some of my goals. And so I think being resourceful, figuring out what your talents are, taking time to look at everything, I think that's also a big thing. Sometimes we don't look at our full financial picture. Like, what is it? Where is it that we're hurting the most? Where is it that and celebrating stuff too, right? Because I don't want to be all negative, right? Sometimes we're doing well in certain areas as well. Guess what? This week, I spent way less money on coffee than I did, in weeks prior. I usually spend about $35, $40. This week I didn't spend anything. So just like also celebrating those small wins. But those are some of the things from myself. I've been less hard on myself in the financial space, but I think that has freed me up to be more to not be stressed out, but to strategize.
Awesome. And Mr. Edward, if you could kind of share your thoughts on kind of where people's minds should be right now, coming out of COVID-19, trying to figure out what to do with their money, and they're thinking about reaching out to a financial advisor. Kind of what are your kind of final thoughts on where people need to start?
Yeah, I do think people need to look at their budget and try to put away some monies for these rainy days. Because rainy days come a lot for some people, and if they're not prepared, then even though they may have investments with me, they didn't do the right thing and putting away that rainy day. Now they got to come to me and like, we got to disrupt the financial plan, okay, which then puts them further back. So my first thing for anyone is to put away 3 to 6 months of monies so that you can cover these rainy days. So this coronavirus is a rainy day for a lot of people, right? Some people are unemployed, they've been laid off, they've been furloughed, um, and so they didn't have enough put aside to carry them through what we've been since March to now, you know, in this coronavirus era. And so people didn't have enough money set aside to cover rainy day funds. So that's the first thing. You build a foundation. If you look at your financial picture kind of like a pyramid, all right? A pyramid got to have a strong foundation in order to be around, stay around, all right? And that foundation, in my opinion, starts with putting aside something for rainy days, all right, so that you can fall back on it and not be hurt by that rainy day period. And then you can come to a financial advisor, and you may not necessarily have to have money to be invested, but you can come to a financial advisor and work up a plan on how to execute and get to these things, that these principles we've been talking to. Okay. And so, hopefully the financial advisor will work with you and come up with something that, over a period of time, you come back to them. They work with you. Yeah, of course, the person's going to get paid something, but over time, you're most likely going to get some good advice from that person, so that you can become, in the long run, a better client for him or her, and be and put yourself in a better financial position. Okay. So I would say right off the bat, rainy day, saving, put some money aside to cover the what ifs of life. What if the car break down? What if, the kids have to go to the doctor? What if, I can't work for 6 weeks or whatever? What if? So if we can kind of put something away for those what if times, you're going to be better off when you come to financial advisors like us to begin to build an investment financial program. Okay. So.
Awesome. And Jeff, if you wouldn't mind sharing kind of what your final thoughts are, and I'll put your contact information up as well.
No, I appreciate that. So I'm gonna jump on top of Mr. Edwards' what if and give you a real life experience, right? His what if scenario is real. So when I told you guys at the beginning that I left State Farm July 12th of 2019, I didn't leave willingly. I was terminated from the company on a decision that they made. They chose to downsize and do some things differently, and I got caught in that, right? Now, I could say it was because I was black or because of whatever you want to say. But at the end of the day, guess what? That rainy day fund is what sustained my wife and my children. I called my wife the day I got terminated, and I said, "Hey, I just lost my job." She said, the first question she asked me was, "Are you okay?" She didn't say, "Are we going to lose our house?" She just said, "Are you okay?" Because we had planned for situations like this. I knew 6 to 12 months of my income would give me more than enough lead time to get something going. And we got up and running pretty quickly. So that 6 to 12 months of your income is paramount. But I think taking it down to even more minuscule than that, right? Because I was a high net worth individual at the time, working in an executive position. So everyone isn't in that position. But I will say this. The average American family does not have $1,000 saved.
It's true.
The black family is living paycheck to paycheck. Okay, so let's talk about financial planning. It is, hey, let's make sure you got $1,000 saved up first. We can't even begin anything if you can't scrape up $1,000. You'll have $1,000 saved up in your savings account. Then you can start working towards knocking off some of that debt. 6 months to 12 months of your income becomes the goal. But we're going to be realistic, right? Like as Mr. Edward and myself, we look at sweet spot customers that have a certain amount of income. Why? Because it's our livelihood and that's how we earn a living. But it does not mean that we won't help or look to educate people that want to do better from Bridget's perspective, which he was talking about, right? Like, how do you get involved? Well, we're telling you right now, $1,000 saved up, try and pay down as much debt as possible so that when you do get in front of an advisor, you're not $100,000 in debt and you only make 30 grand a year. We'd rather you just make 30 grand a year with no debt, and then we can show you how to do the rest. Okay, so that's my advice to you: is try to stop stunting and fronting,
right,
and just be disciplined. Okay, the topic of the show is stunting and fronting, and I know a lot of the people that we went to school with come back stunting and fronting. Okay, you can't have all this money and be in the club every night and your bed is on the floor. Like, we're just not going to do that.
Right.
Or you got your TV on top of a box. Like, hey, now if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. So my advice to people, and especially young folks in our age range, millennials, we are still on the last bit of that millennial mind, that we really do need to just be disciplined. We have to be disciplined. Dude, I went to school for free. It is blowing my mind that I'm paying $36,000 for my daughter to go to Hampton right now.
Nah. Whew. Wait, but that's just 1 year?
But guess what? It's one of those things where it's a small sacrifice,
right,
that we made a while ago. I actually used life insurance to pay into for my daughter to be able to go to college. I overfunded a big life insurance policy. Yeah. This is just not to dig in the weeds, but that was my strategy versus a 529 to be able to do that, because I thought she would get a scholarship. That's why I was scared of the 529. But in any event, we have 4 of the kids, so I still should have done the 529, Mr. Edwards. but long and short is, guys, save, get with someone that you can trust, you vet them out, and their goals and principles match and align with yours, and then you will build a relationship that is sustainable, and it'll help you, and you'll reflect in your finances.
I really appreciate you guys joining us tonight. This has been a wonderful, insightful episode, very fruitful episode. I hope everybody who was listening was actually taking notes, and I feel like everybody should be encouraged, no matter where you are in your financial journey, all it takes is for you to make that commitment to change and, set a goal for yourself, and then put those steps in place. And be disciplined and do them right in order for you to be able to reach that goal. So it's never too late. There's always an opportunity for you to kind of take control over your financial future. And I think these are 2 great brothers for you to reach out to in order to kind of get some advice. But start with eliminating debt, man. No stunting, no fronting, no $300 Gucci belts and flip-flops out here, man. It's Like, come on. You can get some flip flops for less than $20 at Walmart, and they work the exact same way. I promise. All right. So, make sure you're putting your money in the right places, eliminate that debt, save that $1,000, right? Work your way towards 6 to 12 months worth of expenses in your savings account. And then, reach out to these good brothers so you can start to grow yourself exponentially, right? So it's a process. Don't be afraid of the process. I wrote on the cover of my book, love's future may not be clear, but its strength lies in its journey to forever. The same could be said for your finance, right? That means enjoy the journey. It's a lot of thorns on that way, but as long as you commit to that journey, you can end up in a beautiful place that smells nice and rosy, okay? So don't be afraid of the journey, all right? Thank you. This has been another installment. Again, thank you to Mr. Edward Williams and Mr. Jeff Granger. Their contact information will be in the video description below. I thank all your viewers. Thank you, Derek. All of our viewers. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Bridget, today. And, we'll see you next week. Next week, we're talking about education. Come back and talk about what we can do for the chitlins, all right? All right. This has been another installment of By Any Means. We out. Peace.
Bye.